I accidentally fell in love with my best friend's son. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be doing this. But damn it, Isaac's here, in my home, on my couch, his lips pressed against mine, his body warm and eager. His hands are everywhere, sliding over my chest, tugging at my shirt, desperate for more. I've kissed plenty of people in my life, but this is different. I should stop him. I need to stop him, but damn, when he looks at me with those deep brown eyes, practically begging me to take him, how the hell am I supposed to say no? Benedict, please, he whispers, his voice low, needy, and that's all it takes for me to lose whatever willpower I had left. I press him back into the couch, my body aching with need, my mind screaming at me to stop. His skin is hot beneath my hands. I can feel him trembling beneath me, every sound he makes only pushing me further over the edge. This is so wrong. I can see Mark's face in my head, his anger, the betrayal in his eyes if he ever found out. My best friend, the man who's been like a brother to me, and here I am, doing this with his son, his 20-year younger son, but right now, in this moment, none of that matters. Isaac's fingers dig into my back, pulling me closer. I groan, kissing him harder, deeper. My mind flashes back to all the times I've told myself this would never happen, that I'd never cross this line, and now I've shattered that boundary. But the way Isaac moves, the way he whispers my name, I don't care anymore. I know I should pull away, stop this madness. He's too young, too forbidden. If Mark found out, he'd kill me. I know that. But if this is what it costs, if it means I can have this moment with Isaac right here, right now, then so be it. The next morning, I woke up to the sunlight pouring in through the window, a warm glow that felt like a cruel joke. The bed was rumpled, sheets tangled around us, and I turned to see Isaac lying next to me, completely peaceful. For a moment, I let myself enjoy the sight. He looked beautiful, his dark hair tousled, those deep brown eyes still closed in sleep, but then reality hit me like a cold splash of water. I was lying naked next to my best friend's son. What the hell had I done? Just last night, everything felt so electric, so right, but now the weight of my actions crashed down on me. Mark was going to kill me if he ever found out, and what would people say? The thought alone made my stomach churn. Before I could gather my thoughts, my phone buzzed loudly on the nightstand. I grabbed it, heart racing, and saw Mark's name flash on the screen. Panic gripped me as I swiped to answer. Benedict, we need to talk, he said, his voice tight with concern. It's about Isaac. I sat up, trying to keep my voice steady. What's wrong? He's been out late and I heard some things. I'm worried he's getting involved with someone of the wrong sort. You know how these places are, right? My stomach dropped. Mark, just keep an eye on him, okay? I don't want him getting hurt. Sure. As I hung up, guilt washed over me. I had crossed a line I shouldn't have. I glanced over at Isaac, still asleep, unaware of the chaos brewing outside. What have I done? I should have stopped it before it began, but now I was tangled in a web of my own making, and I had no idea how to escape. Flashback. 15 years ago. It was a bright Saturday morning. I was recently divorced, and my best friend and his wife were kind enough to ask me to join them for breakfast. So, as they got the breakfast ready, I watched little Isaac play make-believe. The little guy was full of energy as usual. Bene, come play, he called out, his voice high-pitched and full of excitement. I walked over to where he sat on the floor with a pile of his toys. He looked up at me, his deep brown eyes sparkling with joy. Look at this, I made a tower, he exclaimed, pointing at the colorful blocks stacked precariously. I couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. Impressive, you're quite the architect, Isaac, I said, giving him a thumbs up. He beamed at my praise, then paused, his little face serious for a moment. Bene, you're my favorite, he declared, looking straight at me. My heart melted a bit. Oh yeah? I like you too, kiddo, I replied, ruffling his hair playfully. You're my favorite too. Isaac giggled and threw his arms around my leg, hugging me tight. Let's play superheroes. You can be the strong one, and I'll be the fast one. I chuckled. All right, but only if I get to wear the cape. Deal, he shouted, jumping to his feet, full of energy again. We spent the rest of the morning flying around the living room, fighting imaginary villains and saving the day. It was simple and carefree, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. Just me and my best friend's son, creating memories that would last a lifetime. 2 years ago. It had been a while since I'd seen Mark, and I was looking forward to catching up with him. As I pulled into the driveway, nostalgia washed over me. I remembered the countless times I'd been here, playing with Isaac when he was just a little kid. When I stepped inside, the familiar scent of Mark's cooking filled the air. He greeted me with a big smile and a hearty hug. Benedict, it's been too long, man. Yeah, it has, I replied, clapping him on the back. As we settled into the living room, I noticed Isaac sitting on the couch with a friend. He looked up and smiled, but there was something different about him now. He was taller, more confident, with an easy smile that made my heart skip a beat. Hey, Isaac, I said, trying to keep my tone casual. Hi, Benedict, he replied, a hint of nervousness in his voice. I could tell he was still a bit shy around me, which surprised me. Hadn't we shared countless memories? I shook my head, forcing myself to focus on Mark, but I couldn't help glancing back at Isaac, noticing how gone was this little boy I used to know. He had grown into a smart young man, looking kind of pretty, if I was being honest. Wait, what the hell was wrong with me? Maybe it was time I started seeing people again. It had been quite long since I had dated anyone. It was messing with my head, making me notice how grown-up Isaac had become. How hot. God, no. The rest of the evening I tried to push the thoughts aside, but they lingered, a strange flutter in my chest that I couldn't quite ignore. About a year ago, I walked into the cafe, my heart racing with concern. Isaac had called me earlier, asking to meet and saying it was important. He insisted I shouldn't tell his dad, which only made me more anxious. What could he possibly want to discuss that he didn't want Mark to know? As I spotted him at a small table in the corner, I couldn't help but notice how grown up he looked. His deep brown eyes held a mix of excitement and nervousness as I approached. Hey, Isaac, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. Thanks for coming, Benedict, he said, fidgeting with his coffee cup. I need to tell you something. Sure, what's up? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He took a deep breath, his expression serious. I've had a crush on you for a while now. I can't stop thinking about you. My heart sank. Those words hit me like a freight train, dredging up feelings I had buried deep down. I had always found Isaac attractive, but he was Mark's son, my best friend's son. It felt wrong to even consider it. Yet, here we were. Isaac, you know this isn't I started, but he cut me off. It's not just a crush, though. I really like you, he insisted, his voice trembling. And I thought maybe you felt the same way? I could see the hope in his eyes, and it made my heart ache. I wanted to reach out and tell him it was okay, that I felt the same, but the words caught in my throat. Listen, I said, finally forcing myself to sound calm. What you're feeling is normal. It happens at your age. It's just a phase. His face fell, but I pressed on, trying to convince myself just as much as him. And the age gap. It's significant, Isaac. I hesitated. I'm too old for you. It wouldn't work. I saw the disappointment in his eyes, and I hated myself for it, but I couldn't let this go any further. I needed to remind myself that nothing could ever happen between us. I had to repress these feelings again, no matter how much I wanted to give in to the desire that had been building for so long. A month ago. The music thumped in my chest as I stumbled through the crowded gay bar, my head spinning from the drinks I downed. I was well beyond tipsy and into the territory of being completely wasted. It was a blur of flashing lights and laughter, and I couldn't quite remember how I had ended up here again. But I was just looking for a way to forget everything, my job, my life, and most of all, the feelings I had for Isaac. That's when I bumped into him. Benedict! Isaac's voice cut through the noise like a beacon. I turned, and there he was, looking as handsome as ever. My heart skipped, but I quickly shook my head, trying to push the thoughts away. What are you doing here? I slurred, attempting to sidestep him. I was just having fun with some friends, but I'm glad to see you, he said, a smile lighting up his face. You okay? I'm fine, I replied too quickly, the words spilling out before I could think. I didn't want to deal with this, not now, not ever. But he wasn't letting me go that easily. Come on, let's talk. I know things have been weird between us, he said, taking a step closer. I felt the walls closing in. I really shouldn't, I mumbled, desperately scanning the room for a way out. My brain was screaming to avoid him, but my body was moving in the opposite direction. I just want to talk, please, he pressed, his voice low and earnest. I didn't trust myself to say no, so I turned and made a beeline for the washroom, hoping I could escape. But of course, he followed me. Once inside, I leaned against the sink, trying to steady myself. Isaac, this isn't a good idea, I warned, my voice shaky. Why not? You're not being fair to yourself, he said, stepping closer, his eyes locked onto mine. You don't have to push me away. Before I knew it, he was right in front of me, and the alcohol coursing through my veins made it hard to think straight. I should have pushed him away. I should have told him to leave, but all I could focus on were those deep brown eyes full of longing. In a moment of weakness, I leaned in and our lips met. It was electric, and every suppressed feeling came rushing back. I kissed him harder, pouring all my confusion and desire into that stolen moment. But then, just as quickly as it began, I snapped back to reality. What was I doing? I pushed him away, breathless and panicked. I can't do this, I blurted out, and before he could say anything else, I rushed out of the bathroom, heart racing and mind reeling. I needed to get away from him and away from myself. Yesterday evening. It had been a month since I last saw Isaac, a month filled with silence and the haunting memory of that night in the washroom. I thought avoiding him would make things easier, but every day felt heavier without him. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected it to be him, but it never was. I was trying to convince myself that distancing myself was the right thing to do, but deep down, I knew I was just running from my own feelings. Then, yesterday happened. I was in the middle of making dinner when I heard a knock on the door. My heart raced as I opened it, and there he stood, Isaac, looking more vulnerable than I had ever seen him. His eyes were glistening, and I could see the turmoil in his expression. "Benedict," he started, his voice shaky. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside, letting him in, and closed the door behind us. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "I've tried to move on, I really have. I've gone on dates, tried to have boyfriends, but..." He paused, and tears welled up in his eyes. "It's not what I want. It's not them. It's you. I love you, Benedict." My heart skipped a beat. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came out. "I know it sounds crazy," he continued, his voice trembling, "but it's something deep that even I don't understand. I can't shake it off. I know you feel it too. I can see it in your eyes. You can't deny it." I felt a lump forming in my throat. The truth was, he was right. I did feel something for him. Something I had tried so hard to bury. Seeing him like this, so raw and honest, shattered the walls I had built around my heart. "Isaac," I started, but he stepped closer, desperation etched on his face. "Just give me a chance, please." He reached out, placing a hand on my arm. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver down my spine. In that moment, I felt all my defenses crumbling. The heat of the moment, the raw emotion swirling between us, it was intoxicating. Against my better judgment, I nodded. Without another word, he leaned in and our lips met, and it was everything I had been longing for so long. Flashback end. 2 days later. It had been 2 days since that night with Isaac, and every moment since then had been filled with confusion and guilt. I couldn't shake the memory of our time together, the way it had felt so right, yet so utterly wrong. Then came the call from Mark. Hearing his voice filled with concern for his son shook me to my core. I knew I had to face the consequences of my actions, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I slipped out of my house, needing space to breathe and think, and by the evening, as I had hoped, Isaac had left. He had left me a few messages checking in, but I couldn't respond. The weight of what we had done pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. I kept replaying everything in my mind. I couldn't just ghost him after what we shared. That felt cruel and unfair. But how could I stay? This was all so complicated. I couldn't do this to him. Wouldn't do this to him. The thought of Mark finding out terrified me, and I couldn't bear the thought of Isaac getting hurt because of me. As I paced the empty streets, I made a decision. I would move far away. It was the only way to protect him from the fallout of my mistakes. Tomorrow, I'd meet him and tell him everything. I'd explain why I had to go and how much I cared for him, even if it hurt both of us. Tears pricked at the corner of my eyes as I thought about saying goodbye. I didn't want to hurt him, but I had to be strong for both of us. Deep down, I knew this was the only way. The next evening. The evening air was thick with tension as I stood outside Mark's house, my heart racing. I had spent the day trying to muster the courage to face Isaac one last time. When I finally slipped inside, I found Mark in the living room, laughing and talking with some friends. I quickly made my way upstairs, searching for a moment alone with Isaac. He was in his room, and when I quietly entered, I found him sitting on the bed, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "Benedict, what's wrong?" I took a deep breath, the weight of everything pressing down on me. "I need to talk to you, Isaac. It's important." His eyes widened and he nodded, urging me to continue. "What is it?" "I care about you more than I ever thought I could. I love you. I have loved you for far too long," I said without a pause. His face broke into a smile, but only for a second. "But I can't do this," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm leaving. I've decided to move away. I think it's for the best." His face fell, hurt flashing across his features. "No, you can't just leave," he exclaimed, standing up. "I love you, Benedict. You love me too. We can make this work." I shook my head, desperate to hold on to my resolve. "It's not that simple, Isaac. You're young, and I'm..." Before I could finish, he crossed the space between us and pressed his lips against mine. The kiss was filled with urgency, passion, and a hint of desperation. Just as I began to respond, the door swung open and Mark walked in. His expression shifted from confusion to horror as he took in the scene. "What the hell is going on here?" he shouted, anger flooding his voice. Isaac jumped in front of me, his eyes fierce. "Dad, wait, it's not what you think," but Mark was livid. "You can't be serious. You're kissing him? My best friend. You have to be kidding me." "Just listen to me," Isaac pleaded. "I love him. He loves me. He's my age, for fuck's sake. Your mother would be so ashamed," Mark spat out, his face red with rage. In an unexpected burst of defiance, Isaac shot back. "No, she wouldn't be. She understood me. You never even tried." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Mark looked taken aback, but Isaac wasn't finished. "You were never around to understand me. I don't need your approval." With that, Isaac stormed out of the room, leaving me standing there frozen. I wanted to follow him, to comfort him, but I felt too ashamed to move. Mark turned to me. I tried to apologize, but the fury etched on his face stopped me from saying anything. "You need to leave. Don't ever show your face around here again." I wanted to apologize so badly, but the words wouldn't come. I couldn't face him, couldn't bear the thought of the pain I had caused, so I quietly turned and walked away, my heart heavy with regret. 3 nights later. The past 3 days had been nothing but a hazy blur of hurt and guilt. I couldn't shake the feeling of shame that clung to me like a heavy cloak. I had hurt Isaac, the person I cared for the most, and I had betrayed my best friend. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the pain in their faces, and it twisted my heart. I didn't know how to fix it. Then, just as I was lost in my thoughts, the doorbell rang. My heart sank. I opened the door, half expecting to find Mark standing there, ready to unleash his anger on me once again. But when I saw him, I was taken aback. His face was pale, and there were dark circles under his eyes. His voice was surprisingly low, almost shaking. "Benedict." "Mark," I replied, unsure of what to say. He stepped inside, the tension hanging thick in the air. "I don't understand my son anymore," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Since his mother died, we've grown so distant. It's like he's a stranger to me." I listened quietly, letting him pour out his feelings as he made himself comfortable on the sofa. I could see the pain etched on his face, and it made my heart ache. "I don't know how to reach him," he continued, his voice trembling. "And then I find out he's been involved with you, and it's all so weird. Maybe wrong, too, if I'm being honest. But he seems happy with you, and I can't remember the last time I saw him smile like that." Mark looked down, and I could tell he was fighting back tears. "I know I shouldn't be here," he continued, his voice trembling. "But you make him happy, and He paused, wiping out his tears. "I can't bear to see him like this. He's my only son, and I can't see him so broken. I haven't seen him this broken since his mother." My chest tightened at his words. "I really care for him, you know, more than anyone." Mark looked at me, searching my face for sincerity. "He's my son," he said, his voice steadier now, but still heavy with emotion. "Please take care of him." "I will," I promised, feeling a strange sense of understanding pass between us. In that moment, we both knew the importance of protecting Isaac and making sure he felt loved. As Mark nodded, I realized that despite everything that had happened, we were both in this together, wanting the best for the same person. 5 years later. 5 years had flown by since that chaotic night when everything changed. Isaac and I built a life together, one filled with laughter, love, and a few challenges along the way. We had learned to navigate the complexities of our relationship, and each day felt like a gift. Now we were getting ready to meet Mark, and my heart raced with excitement and nerves. As we walked into the cafe where Mark had agreed to meet us, I could feel the weight of what I was about to do. Isaac squeezed my hand, and I looked over at him. His face was lit up with anticipation, but there was also a flicker of anxiety in his eyes. "Dad's going to be surprised," Isaac said, glancing at me as I smiled at him. When we spotted Mark at a corner table, I took a deep breath, and I led Isaac toward him. Mark looked up and smiled, his face lighting up at the sight of us. "Hey, you two, it's great to see you." "Thanks for meeting us, Dad," Isaac said, taking his father's hand in a gesture of warmth. "We have something important to tell you." But before Isaac could say more, I stepped in, feeling the need to take charge. "Let me do this," I said softly, looking at Isaac, who nodded, trusting my instincts. I turned to Mark, my heart pounding. "Mark," I stated, my voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside me. "I want to talk to you about Isaac. Over these past few years, he has become my everything. I can't imagine my life without him." Mark's eyes widened in surprise, but he remained silent, giving me the chance to continue. "I love your son deeply, and I want to make it official. I'm here to ask for his hand in marriage," I said, feeling a mix of vulnerability and hope. For a moment, Mark was speechless. his expression shifting from shock to happiness. A smile broke across his face as he let out a breath. Wow, I didn't see that coming, but yes, God, of course yes, you too have my blessing. With that, Mark took Isaac's hand and placed it in mine, a gesture that felt monumental. You two are perfect for each other, he said, his voice filled with warmth. As we all shared a moment of laughter and joy, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be, and I couldn't wait to start this next chapter with Isaac by my side. Conclusion. We got married soon after, surrounded by family and friends who supported our love. Isaac, with his stubbornness and playful antics, sometimes drove me a little crazy, but he also brought a fresh spark to my life that I never knew I needed. His laughter filled our home with joy, and his youthful spirit reminded me to embrace life fully. He truly was my second chance at happiness, showing me that love can bloom in the most unexpected places. I couldn't be more grateful for every moment we shared, and I looked forward to our future together. The end. Would you have given Benedict a chance if you were Mark? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.